So I think one of the other things we wanted to ask each of you was how and what are you communicating to your current investors? How are you, I know we all want to be as transparent as possible, give them as much information as we can. So how are you communicating that? And how are you, if you have a fund or you're borrowing money, how are you positioning yourself to protect yourself and your investors as well? Mike, you want to be the first to answer that one?
Sure. So communicate often. That's the doctrine of the day. That's what you have to do. So we're trying to do weekly communication, not overwhelming people with information, but certainly communicating some of the key concepts that's happening out there. So number one concept, and that's what we're communicating to investors, is we are focused on portfolio management. That's the number one job right now. You guys have a hard money portfolio. We have some hard money portfolio. We have a diversified portfolio of commercial assets. So we are spending more time now than ever looking through our portfolio and identifying strengths, weaknesses, and just managing that. That's the key message to deliver. We're focused on the portfolio. The second message to deliver is to set conservative expectations looking forward. So we know that the Q2 is going to be really bad from collections, revenues, rent collections, whatever the assets are, multifamily, office, retail, self-storage. Some of them will get better, some of them will get worse, but in aggregate, the expectation is that the income from the current portfolios in real estate will come down. Same thing in hard money loans. We'll have less collection. Some of our fix and flip borrowers have come forward, great people. They ask for some kind of vacation holiday, some kind of interest vacation or interest holiday discounts just to help them. And that's expected, that's going to happen. So we're just setting very conservative expectations. In parallel to that, we are setting expectations for increasing loss reserves because we don't know, things may not be so bad or things may be worse. So we're increasing loss reserve as the only mechanism to adjust for uncertainty.
Right.
Right. So a couple of other quick points. We are certainly communicating the new deal flow is, I don't want to call it completely frozen, but significantly slowed down. So new deals are not happening the way they were before. In commercial space, they're completely frozen. We're still doing a few hard money loans here and there, but much less than before. And the other key point is we're tightening up underwriting. So we were communicating that we're going to try to do everything we can to reduce the risk, lower the LTV, because we just don't know how these things will play out. Assume lower values upon completion of the rehab. It's basically the deal flow is semi-frozen, and what we're doing more conservatively. Also communicating some other key messages where we have a very strong cash position in all our funds. So we have a ton of liquidity, which helps absorb any kind of risks or deal with problems and take advantage of new opportunities. So we're gearing up for great deals. We're just not pulling the trigger right now because we don't know how things will play out, and the pain points are not big enough for the deals to come through yet. So all this stuff is being communicated to investors, and keeping good communications is the key, making sure they're well aware of what's going on and you're accessible. I do have multiple investor calls throughout the week, answering questions, trying to reassure them and help them see what's going to happen. But certainly more conservative return expectations are being set. Very realistic, very practical, not scaring anybody, just preparing if things work out worse than what the stock market is projecting right now. The stock market is sort of saying, hey, things are getting better, less deaths. I do feel that this is going to be a prolonged issue. And then you heard me ask the $10 trillion question is how do we reopen and not cause another big wave of further reinfection?
Right. Well said. Fucon, what about you?
Yeah, so it's very important to keep that communication, as Mike stated. We've been doing a lot of that as well, letting investors know what the goal and strategy is. Of course, is increasing reserves as much as we can. We don't know how long this thing is going to play out. We know we have with our notes, we can't initiate or start any foreclosures or continue any foreclosures that we had in the pipeline. So we're just discussing the various strategies of what we're doing now in the portfolio. We also discussed with them on the rental side, the percentage coverage of the government-backed rents that we do have in the C-plus class areas to give some assurity of rental collections and let them know where we think that will fall as the months go on. Everyone is waiting for the beginning of this month to see what's going to happen, but I believe greater impact will happen, next month and the month after, as more people get laid off and people can't afford to pay rent. So we're very fortunate to have most of the government-backed programs, Battered Women and Children, Section 8, these types of residents in our facility. So just communicating, also letting them know about future opportunities that will be down the line as it turns into a buyer's market, and really trying to see what their liquidity position is and if they're willing to, get into other opportunities with us. So that's really been doing this and seeing how their well-being are they going through any challenges or struggles? Can we help them with anything on a personal level? Just communicating, like Randy said earlier, it's not only being a manager of a fund, it's therapy and communicating with people and really digging deep and making those connections to those investors that keep the ball rolling. So that's pretty much it, just communicating.
Awesome. And Sean, what about you?
We are, I think, like everybody said, just communicating with our investors. We actually just got done with our annual State of the Union address. So it was myself and Larry, our founding partner. Larry talked a lot about operations because people are very concerned about the COVID-19. But, I think I agree with Raquan. I think you really have to keep it positive. We will, as a country, get through this, and it's going to create a lot of opportunity for folks, and specifically, we think in senior living. So, again, we've always been very good at touching our investors, like Mike said. We did take over operations of our communities about 2 years ago after using a third-party operator. So a lot of the communications we have are about the operation, upcoming projects. So I think, again, we haven't really had a problem with investors. They're investing with us, the people, the brand. They know who we are. But, again, I think as long as you're touching your investors, you're always going to have the opportunity to bring in more investors and keep the message very positive, if you will.
Awesome. And finally, Randy?
Yes. We're communicating two forms. We do a video update to our investors that we're sending out once a week, and then also a weekly update, just really communicating both all the things that we've done in preparation, but then also yesterday we sent out an update just of where we are on the percentages and collections compared to the previous month. So just really keeping people informed. And then as well, making periodic calls, talking with people as well. And then, sharing with them too, what we anticipate, how we've changed some of our underwriting in the short term where, if new rent performer was tracking for 900, probably in the near term, it's 825 over the 6-month Q1 21, where we can, get back to that rent. Cause there's going to be a softening with, some operators in markets where they've, got to fill up units that they've had to evict people in come, September, once they get those evictions done, and they had 20 evictions because they were not a good operator. Right. Now they're operating at cheaper rent, so that's going to have a little bit of pressure, but also too, the opportunities that are there. Like as we were speaking, I just got a text message from, one of the people that we work with regularly in a market. Hey, we've got a deal that just fell apart, a deal that we looked at. And, the numbers are changing. I had another one probably last week where they repriced about 12.5% off of it from, 75,000 down to 67,000 a door.
Wow.
And, so those things are happening. But I would also say this, and I thought about this yesterday. A lot of people are running around, man, the deals are going to be amazing. But here's the thing. Those amazing deals are going to go to elite operators like myself and others, right? Because this guy that just sent me that text, he's not sending it to random Joe.
Right.
He's sending it to me because he knows we execute. And now it doesn't mean that deal is necessarily a deal, but it's that's again going back to that thing I talked about the expertise and knowledge of markets, that the best deals are going to be obtained by the people that are expertise and have that persona or knowledge in the market, and all the people there know them as, hey, this guy's an executor, this is an expert in this arena. They're going to get first crack at the stuff that's coming available, because that person that say they've got to sell it, whether it's a multifamily or whether it's a hotel based asset, they're bringing it to somebody they know can execute without question.
Right.
So that's going to be something that we see, and we're communicating that with our investors as well, because there's definitely opportunity on the other side of this horizon, no doubt.
That's so true. Even on a smaller scale, the seller financing is probably just a supreme way to be buying stuff right now, because people aren't lending. We're sitting on our money, and I know a lot of other fund people who are doing the same, but I'm negotiating now with a partner of mine with a seller who has over 60 properties that he's trying to sell. And we're able to get a pretty incredible interest rate with a pretty low down payment just because, when people are ready to sell, now things are falling apart. And I can't tell you how many wholesalers that we know that have reached out to us to say, hey, do you know anybody that's looking to buy this? This deal is falling apart, just like you're talking about with the apartments. And even in apartments, you can assume those loans as well. There's all kinds of different ways that you can create deals to work with, figuring out what your new financing would be, even if it's just for a temporary time.
There's a lot of deals available now because they really weren't great deals to start with.
Yeah, but they just got cheaper.
And they don't meet the stress test that we put on them now.
Right.
So those will all have to be, repriced at some point.
And Randy, too, you talked about really building the relationship. And I think everybody can make that a major takeaway is make sure that you are building relationships with people that are just worthy of having in your circle. And the integrity, the word that Bill forgot, is
Apparently I don't have much of
it. It's so important to work from integrity in everything that you do, because people remember that. And, that's why you got that text while we're sitting right here during this time. It's because people know you, they like you, they trust you, they know you're going to do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah. Even to that end, that came from a guy, we were working on 2 deals prior to this happening, so we were close, going back and forth with PSAs. And as this was unfolding, we, of course, seeing what's taking place, we're like coming back in the live time of that conversation and really saying, okay, look, hey, we have to adjust and bring this in. We have to bring this income guarantee. We have to bring this in. And, those were part of realistic discussions that were integrous, because it's like, this is what's happening and this was unfolding. And, as a result of that, we all agreed at that moment, hey, you know what we need to do? Let's put this on pause. We're not going to move forward. The seller still wants to sell. We still want to buy. But at this moment, there's too many unknown variables for us to really make a fair deal, and so, but out of that, that's an integrity move.
Right.
So then the result of that is exactly that. Boom, I'm getting this text saying, hey, this other great property that we really like is coming back in. And even included in that is also, hey, there's, a lot of the things I talked about in the other deals about that will be opportune to include in this, as well as I'm sure, change in price and all like that. So that's paramount, is don't burn bridges, really develop relationships. We've been super intentional with all the people we work with and all the geographies we're in. We're known as a go-to person. Like, if we shake on it for 10 million, we're going to get it done. And there's no BS. It's straightforward. And that has paid off in spades over the years, because now, people know that we're honest and we're going to do what we say.
Right.
Well, the key is do what you say.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
You're not just kicking tires. If it's a deal, you're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that they'll see a deal and it is a deal, but they're dreaming that it can happen and it falls apart at the end.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. The other thing I'd seen a lot of too is where somebody intentionally said, okay, yeah, we'll pay 10 million, but really they wanted to be at 9. And so they want to retrade it for $1 million. Which that just blows their integrity, because you really couldn't pay 10, you could only pay 9. And that's a short-term mentality, and I think that, Fuquan mentioned about this. It's like, I've learned over the long period of time, deals have to be fair. We can have a good deal, and fair doesn't mean that you're overpaying, but it's like, it has to be beneficial for all parties. The investors that invest with us are benefiting, the people that we work with, they're benefiting, the tenants in our places, they're benefiting. It's got to be win-win in order for it to be long-term successful. And that's what we always look for is win-win relationships, just like even with working with you guys and, everybody that we work with, Mike as well. It's win-win.
Right.
Excellent.
I agree.
All right, guys, it is approaching the top of the hour. We certainly appreciate you guys being on the show. Again, you can find us at carolinahardmoney.com, and we put the URL of all of our guests on there. If you still need to know how to get in contact with them, go ahead and shoot it here in the chat, and I'll make sure that we get that information out. So join us next week.
No,
At the
like
same
and trust and
same time, same channel. Please share, like, and subscribe.
follow, tell all your friends.
All that great stuff. And listen, we're all going to get through this. And let's make sure we pray for those that are really hurt by this. And
God's already won the battle, so keep that in mind.
that's right. And make sure that you think about all the hospital and frontline workers
That's
as
right.
well. All right. All right, guys.
Thank
Stay
you.
safe.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Thank you.